I haven't even played any of them. Is it good?
Yes. Can you vouch for me?
What is it? What is it about?
Hunting monsters. But
is it a story though?
I mean,
what? Kind of. Did you play the one where you're there's a Horizon New Dawn? You played that?
That's the story.
Yeah, those are the kind of games I like. You're hunting monsters, but there's a story behind it.
It's more focused on the
All right, here we go. Chris, Hoodie, hey, take the hat off before you get in trouble. And the glasses. All right.
Can the fish stay?
I don't care about the fish.
Yay!
All right, hey, you are in 10th grade. You guys get much more privileges than the rest of the school. If you haven't already been told this, here's what your schedule looks like. This is for tomorrow. That's why the white's here. We actually are going to review today. But we will continue on, for this week. We'll go halfway into next. We will actually finish chapter 11 on Tuesday. We'll do on Monday. We'll do one chapter review, a normal one, and we'll forget everything. We'll take tests and we'll have to do it again. That's why there's two of them here. I don't do like, some teachers do like, hey, let's do 2 weeks of prep for the state test type thing. I don't do that. So I will give you 3 days of prep though. You guys have never taken, you should have taken your first one last year, but unfortunately COVID screwed that up. You've never taken a PSAT before.
Nope.
For those of you that have, one person, right, it is an exact copy of the SAT test, the test that you will take, one of the two tests, the SAT or the ACT, to get into college. Yes, there's a few colleges that have been going SAT, ACT optional. But 99.9% of the colleges out there require you to take either the SAT or the ACT. Luckily for us, we live in a state where up until a couple of years ago, you took this state test that had no bearing on you whatsoever. You could do well on it, you could do poor on it. It really didn't. You had no skin in the game, so to speak. You do now. It's the PSAT. Plus it's free, right? This is I don't know how much it costs, but it's like, I don't know, it's somewhere between $50 and $100 to take this test. You pay nothing for it. Okay. When you're in your junior year, you will take your actual SAT test, the one that's for all the marbles right there. So you get 2 years, you guys get screwed. You get 1 year because you didn't take it last year. So you're going to get one of these that you're going to take this year, and that's in 2 weeks from now. It gives you a good flavor for what the SAT test. So mathematically, here's what the SAT test is like. The SAT test, there is no calculus on it. There is little to no pre-calculus on it, little to none. And a couple little tiny ones, but not much. So what the SAT, the majority of it is all algebra 2 and lower. There is half of the test is going to be geometry, half of it for the math part. And it's not going to be the geometry parts that you immediately forget. You learn once, you immediately forget. It's going to be the core of geometry, the stuff that is somewhat easy to remember. So you guys should do pretty well on the SAT or the PSAT because you're in geometry this year. The only thing you haven't had is some higher level algebra, which you'll get next year. And then you have everything you need to know in order to do well on that test or to get a score that indicates how well you know math.
I did awful on the math section.
Yeah, but you took this without, when did you take it?
7th grade.
Right, so you had no algebra 1 and you had no geometry, right?
Always taking a PSAT at 7.
Well, you can take a PSAT to, I don't know what, if there's a low limit on how old you have to be, but there are people that take the PSAT, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Like I said, Colorado, you take what's called the PSAT 9 in 9th grade and the PSAT 10 in 10th grade. So this is the one that will be as close to the SAT test as you will ever see. It's important that you do well on it. One, it gives you a solid indication in your sophomore year of where you stand. If you do well on it, then you know that these are the type of schools that I will be able to be accepted into it. If you do poor on this test, right? This isn't the one that says, no, you can't go to college, but what it does is it gives you the indication that unless something changes, I'm not going to be able to get into a college because I scored so low on this test. So it is really critical that, one, you try your best so you get a good picture. I'm going to blow this one off because it doesn't count for a grade. I'll wait till I take my real SAT to actually try. That's not a good technique.
And by the way, you
Right.
can actually take the SAT.
You can take it this year as well, too. I would not encourage it. Let's take the PSAT and do well on it. So here's what your schedule looks like. Next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will pick out selected problems from the SAT test, and we'll just do no homework those nights, but we'll do them in class. I do need you guys to actually like put effort into this. We can't literally like cover every single possibility question on it in 3 days. That's impossible. But I can at least give you a flavor of what the questions will look like. We'll do 3 days of that. You are in 10th grade, so the PSAT is a 4-hour test. Maybe it's 3 or 4 hours. I forget one of the two. It's a 3 or 4 hour test, and that's it. If you're in the lower grades, all the way up to 8th grade, you have a 3-day. I'm only got 4 fingers. You have a 3-day test.
You were holding 2 fingers that time.
This time 3.
I didn't see both.
All right.
Wait, the thumb doesn't count as a finger.
It does.
That's 3 fingers.
It does. That's 1, 2, 3. All right, back up here. So of the week of what's called state testing for 9th and 10th graders, this is what it looks like, right? This is the 10th grade schedule right here. On Monday, you're staying home. On Tuesday, you're staying home. On Wednesday, you're coming in the morning, and then you're going home. On Wednesday morning, for that 3 or 4 hours, I forget which one it is, that's when you're going to take your test. It's just a big wham. Here's the test. Take it, go home. SAT test is the same thing. Right? Well, because between 7:30 and 12 o'clock, there are what, 4.5 hours?
Let's go.
Right?
My birthday's the day after the PSAT.
So you guys will be going home on that Wednesday. I gotta check this. If you want to talk to the person, the subject matter expert, that's Mrs. Newberg. She has the actual time. Hey, boys. She has the actual times. I want to say it's probably up to 12, but don't count me on that. Or don't hold me to that specific time, but it's something like that. You're going to come in, normal time, you're going to take your test, and then we're going to release you. You're going to go home. Thursday and Friday, we come back, we're right back to normal stuff. If you absolutely are absent on that Wednesday, the makeup test is on that Friday, okay? But I guess all I'm saying here is that Monday you're at home, Tuesday you're at home, Wednesday you come to school for half a day, morning, go home, and then Thursday we're back till the end of the year normal schedule. Yeah.
Why can't it be in the afternoon?
Hey.
You'd have to ask someone higher up than me. I didn't make that decision.
But like, it's always in the morning.
Why do they do it in the morning when our brains are not functioning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
All right.
Yeah, this is why we gotta get.
It's
Matt,
scientifically proven that our
what's your
brains
question?
So what happens if I accidentally die?
You don't have to take the
It's not
test.
because we're dumb.
Yes.
Yes, I'm
Please
dying.
don't do that though. All right. So some people get really panicky under it. This is absolutely 100% a high stakes test. One, you're going to get a number, and that number is going to have relevance in your life in the sense of it's a number that kind of says, hey, what can I do? Where can I go to school type thing. I don't want to downplay the fact that it absolutely does have relevance. I also don't want to upplay the fact that this is the PSAT, not the SAT. Meaning like the one you take next year, that's the one that's for all the marbles. But the one that you're going to take in 2 weeks is the practice SAT. I mean, do the best you can. If you score poorly on it, you got a year to fix yourself. Well, do you envision yourself going to college?
No.
Okay, if you envision yourself going, let me talk, please. If you envision yourself going to college, it is a requirement that you have a minimum score on this. Every college has a different minimum, right? But there is a minimum. You can't literally get a 0 on this test and go to college.
What's the maximum score you can get on SAT?
1,500.
1,500.
Or is it 15 or 1,600?
I got a 78 on the first.
Well, the PSAT's a different score. right? We'll talk about that when we get our scores
How
back.
many hours in your-
But the actual SAT that you take, it's either 15 or 1600. What else do I want to say about this? Oh yeah, we're talking about the high stakes portion of it. So for those of you that do panic when you take high stakes testing, then just at least in your mind, just tell yourself this is the practice SAT. Save all that panicky stuff for next year when it literally. By the way, you can take your SAT multiple times. The difference is that all the other times you take it, you'll have to pay for it. So you get one free one from the state of Colorado next year. This time next year, you'll get your scores back usually within a month or so. And then that's when the real honest to God, like this time next year, you guys will be like deeply involved into where am I going to college? What am I going to do with my life? Like this is when it all comes together. Like either all of your hard work or all of your lack of hard work comes to fruition. If you've done hard work and you're of average or higher than average intelligence, things will work out well for you. Regardless of where your intelligence is, if you've been lazy, this is when all of a sudden it starts to come into play. Like, okay, I kind of was messing around for the last 12 years of my life, right? Now I want to get into a good college, and all of a sudden you find out, well, that isn't going to happen because I didn't do work. Okay. Most kids that want to go to college do go to college. But the SAT has a large effect on what college you can get into. And that includes everything from your highfalutin state schools here in Colorado to your average schools to your really, really hard to get in schools in Colorado. I mean, there are schools in Colorado that we're talking to universities and colleges that you want to get into. It doesn't matter that you want to get into. It doesn't matter that you have the money to pay for college, right? They only accept kids that have shown that they are capable of doing the work at their college.
That's stupid. You get more money.
I agreed. I mean, there is a sense of like, hey, let's let the kid come in and fail, and we'll just take their money, right?
Well, they want kids to do well, so then their rating goes up. Higher rating, better students, more money.
Chris, you have your thumb on that answer right there. All right. Any questions on this calendar? Here we go. Today we are going to do a quick review. Let me get the review sheets. And by quick review, we're just going to review everything that we've learned so far in this chapter, which was all on
Say in this year.
area. No, say that for piece up.
I did everything.
I didn't do anything really except for my homework. I joined on the lessons. I don't remember. I don't remember.
No, this year, this year, it's so easy.
I only know most of my Spanish from
All right.
You know something?
Does anyone have any homework, physical copies over the break that you want to turn in at this time?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yes, some physical stuff. Okay.
I give it a better
The homework that's due today, listen up, please.
I didn't do that.
Listen.
Is that my home?
The homework that's due today, which would have been 11.4, right? Some of you turn it in online, that's fine. Some of you might have a hard copy. It's going to go in the grade book today, 11.4. But if you turn it in on Teams, you're perfectly fine. Hey, a couple of you, Connor, Ethan.
I know I'm missing.
Actually, everybody else did pretty good. I got like little to no homework from you guys. Yeah, I remember you getting yours.
You did get all my homework.
No, I did all my homework. What do you
Chandler
mean?
actually did some of his homework.
No,
right?
last semester.
No, I'm
This-
saying when we were in quarantine.
Yeah, but
Didn't we only have like a week, but not
the second week I didn't do it. So I,
Just be careful with that. Listen up, please. Just be careful with that. The only thing in the grade book is homework right now. So some of you have Fs right now because you haven't done a test or anything like that. Yeah, yeah, because you definitely had some missing homework.
The one I'm missing is 11.3.
Agree, but when there's only been 11.1, 11.2, 11.3, 11, well, I haven't put 11.4 in grade, but there's only been 3 assignments. When you're missing 1, you immediately have a D. All right, you're missing 2, you have an F. You haven't turned in anything, you absolutely have a 0. So make sure that gets turned in. All right, let's go over this worksheet. Let me share this to my online learners.
Do we have to put the units? We take that off.
I'll talk about the hat in a second. I want this one.
My health literally suffers during like summer.
All right, quiet please. Here we go. Oops, I gotta take it off pause.
Okay.
All right, what's the shape?
Square. It's a rectangle.
What's the formula?
It's a polygon.
What's the formula?
Sorry,
It's just
What's
the
that?
side times the side.
A for area is equal to
The long side times the short side.
okay, base times height.
For the record, I didn't take any notes, all of.
Rectangle, rectangle, rectangle. Area is equal to base times height. Okay, for any rectangle, that includes squares. All right, if you want to write a different formula for square, area is equal to side squared, you can. All right, that was our first shape. Nothing very complicated there.
Actually, I don't know.
Yes, actually, it's very complicated.
I didn't get a single.
Kan's question is, do we have to put units? And the answer is yes, especially here since they give us yards. Hey, since we're on the topic of SAT, you want to know how they'll screw with you? They'll put different types of units. Instead of this being yards, they might put feet. They could do that. Be wary of it. Remember, for any area or volume formula, we'll do volume next chapter. For any area or volume formulas, all the units have to be the same. They have to be the same. Just, I don't ever do this. I think that's kind of cheap, but it can be done on a test. All right. Date's 29. All right. Next shape. All right, look at question number 5. Is question number 5 the same or is it a different problem? Why is this one different? We do not know the, I don't know if you want to call that length or width, I'll call it width. We don't know the width, right? Or the height.
What is 6.3 divided by 6.84?
This is why you will have a calculator on the PSAT test. By the way, you have to have, we are not going to allow you to take the test if you show up without a graphing calculator. You have to have a graphing calculator to take the test. Okay? If this is an issue, I need to know about it now. Like I'm seeing on everyone's hands anyway, but I know. What happened to your faceplate?
Yeah, Mike, what happened to your face?
You can't change the colors of it.
I was
All right.
going to say something else and you started crying.
Make sure if this is an issue that I hear about it. Okay, so Danny says, well, how do I do this? Well, you will have a calculator on the, not my test, but on the PSAT test. You grab your calculator, you do the math.
Why can't we have a calculator on your?
We will if we involve anything that involves, and you'll see, you're going to need a calculator for this homework here, because there's some trig here. So anything involving trig, they'll either have to give you a table, which they don't ever usually do. They just put it on the calculator portion of the test. Okay. All right. Any questions on how to do number 5? That one's a pretty simple one. You just divide. Okay. Remember, the units will not be in square units here because we're calculating one of the dimensions. The units would be in centimeters here. All right, a couple of those, and then we get to our next shape. Danny, what's the shape?
That is a triangle.
What is the formula for area of a triangle? On the PSAT test, you will get a resource card. The resource card will not have every single formula you need. Will have many of the formulas. I guarantee you triangle will be one of the ones they put on it because most people have triangle memorized. Therefore, they don't need it on a resource card. So therefore, the PSAT will put it on the resource card because you don't need it.
I need
because
it.
you'll have it memorized. The ones that you will need, they'll probably leave that one off.
I'll need all of them. I don't know any.
So give me triangle, man.
That's funny.
Give me triangle.
I have no idea. Is it base times height divided by 2?
It is base times height divided by 2. Now, triangles are only tricky when the base is not the bottom. We always like when the bottom is the base. In this case, it's not. Your eyeball should go to the little red square. It won't be red probably on the test, but it could be. Your eyeball should go to the little tiny square for triangles and trapezoids and parallelograms. Goes to the little square. That little square touches the base, and it also touches the height. Why is that other number up here? 11.8 is a pretty valid number. It's not that it's false. You just don't use it in this problem. This is your standard. If anyone's writing a test, that they will just take it and they'll make the base not the bottom. And that differentiates between the kids that know what they're doing and the kids that don't know what they're doing. It's just two numbers multiplied together divided by 2. With a calculator, this is not even a challenging problem. It only is challenging because they didn't make the bottom the base. By the way, if they really wanted to make it challenging, they would put the bottom as 8.7 and they would get a third of the kids would get it wrong. Because your eyeball would say, oh, look, the bottom is 8.7. It must be the base. No, the base is whichever one is attached to that square, because remember, height is the perpendicular distance between a base and the opposite vertex. All right, questions on number 7, triangle. How many did I give you for triangles? A couple of them? All right. Next shape we learned is, by the way, look at question number 9. That's one of those weird scaling obtuse triangles. When it's in red, usually kids don't make a mistake. I will have kids somehow, they really, really, really look at this and they don't know what to do with it. Remember, for the scaling obtuse ones, they typically draw the height outside the triangle. All right. Jenna, what's the shape? Number, what are we on? 10, 11. It is not a rhombus. It could be a rhombus, but it's not. Remember, rhombus, all 4 sides are the same. I mean, there's only one side that's listed. It could be a rhombus, but I mean, it could be a rhombus. This one is a parallelogram. Area of parallelogram, Jenna? Base times height. It's the same as the rectangle, because all rectangles are parallelograms. Base times height. Once again, just like triangle and the trapezoid, your eyeball is going to go to the little tiny square. The square touches the base and it touches the height. Usually what will happen is they'll tell you some of the other sides as well too to try to mess with you. Your eyeball needs to go to the little square. Questions on parallelogram? Questions on parallelogram? All right. Moving on. There is your, we don't call it a scaling. This is your obtuse parallelogram right here, where one of the angles is obtuse. 2 of them are obtuse. And generally they will draw the height. Now, the problem with this one is it looks like it also looks like it's like a trapezoid. If the red dotted lines were solid, it would be a trapezoid. In this case, a right trapezoid. Don't get fooled by this one. The red dotted lines are auxiliary lines showing you measurements. They're not part of the shape. The shape is the solid black part. That's another parallelogram. All right. Next shape is the trapezoid. And yes, I mean, I haven't looked at the PSAT. I'll look it up here when we finish here. I haven't looked at the resource card on the PSAT test, but usually the trapezoid is on that, right? Anybody remember? A for area? Say it. Somebody's saying it.
Yeah, I don't know the rest of it.
Nobody has it memorized?
Base 1, height 1.
Base 1?
5 by 6.
Nope.
What?
So is that the base? It's not like that one's half the other one, right?
Oh,
Something like that.
Times the height
Times height.
divided by 2.
Something like that. Nobody remembers the formula?
The quadratic formula.
Chris? I knew you should.
Going high.
It's close, but no.
Trigonometry.
All right. Clearly, you better hope that this one is on the resource card times height divided by 2. Sometimes they'll put the height over on this side. It's the same formula. That's your formula for area of a trapezoid. You take the two bases, add them together, multiply by the height, and then divide by 2. Yeah, but it's not by 6.
I know, that was just a random number I threw up there. I knew it was too long. I think 60. It was just challenging you.
Every formula that we have in this chapter, if there's a division, is divided by 2. Next chapter, then we get some divided by 3s. Next chapter is on volume, and we do have a few that are divided by 3. All right. Like I said, on most tests, we'll look up the PSAT here in a little bit. The trapezoid is on the resource card. By the way, remember on a trapezoid, the two sides that are parallel are always your two bases. So they can take the trapezoid, they can twist it, they can turn it.
They can burn
There are isosceles trapezoids, there are right trapezoids. The right trapezoid might be the only one that causes you pause because there won't be a red dotted line. One of the sides will be that right angle, or will form that right angle. By the way, I'm not going over any of the answers here. I'm just showing you formulas. That's all we're reviewing. So Danny, you're writing down all the formulas? When we get to after the PSAT test, we finally get to chapter 11 tests. This better be in your book of truth, right? We'll do another, obviously, review before the test. This is just the review after spring break. All right. That is all of our basic shapes. Okay. We do have one other one. It's called the rhombus. Remember, a rhombus is a quadrilateral where all sides are the same, like a square. Square is a type of rhombus. The more, some people call these diamonds, the more classical shape of a rhombus looks like this, where all the sides are 4 or whatever number it is. The formula we got from our book doesn't talk about sides. The formula we got from our book talks about diagonals. So here's the deal. The diagonals will be the lines that connect opposite vertices. Okay, those are your two diagonals. And the formula, A for area, does anybody remember? And we said every formula in chapter 11, are we in chapter 11? Yes. Chapter 11, if there's division, it's always divided by 2. If there's division. So you take the two diagonals, you multiply them together, and you divide by 2. That's it. By the way, it is a parallelogram, so you also could use base times height if you wanted to. Notice I'm not given the height here, so I have to use the diagonals. I'm also not given the base here. So you take two diagonals, multiply them together, divide by 2, and you're done. Correct. Well, you could. Our book, we actually don't talk about formulas for it in 7th and 8th grade for rhombus. We talk about a rhombus, but we don't talk about the formula for area of it. High school geometry introduced this diagonal formula. All right, that's all of our shape. Let's see, we got squares and rectangles, 1, base times height. We got parallelograms, that's another base times height. We got triangles, base times height divided by 2. We got trapezoids, the two bases added together times height divided by 2. And then we have rhombus, the two diagonals multiplied together divided by 2. That's all the area formulas that we have in this chapter. The rest of the chapter deals with different types of shapes, but these are your classic 5 classic shapes. All right. The rest will absolutely 100%, I mean, you can do any of these by hand, but the rest absolutely require a calculator because we will be doing some trig here. So pay attention. I gave you 4 of these. We're going to do 2 of them together. We'll do 2 of them together, and then you'll have 2 for homework. All right. So anybody remember the formula for it should say regular. Doesn't it say somewhere regular? This is a regular pentagon. This is the formula only works for regular polygons. The formula for area of any regular polygon, this is where we left off, by the way. This is the last thing. This was 11.4. Anybody remember what the formula was?
It had something to do with PA.
It had a P and an A. And I said if there's any formula in this chapter and there has division, it's always divided by 2. Now the formula was technically 1/2 PA. P stands for, A stands for, the weird word.
It was like the hyphen. It was the thing from the radius.
Apotheme. A stands for apotheme. So what's the apotheme? We find the center of the regular polygon, and we go perpendicularly to any one of the sides. That's the apotheme. A for apotheme. Whoa. Lesson 1.4 talked about this one other concept. If I go from the center to a vertice, that's called the radius. And we will be using both of those to do this problem. So the formula for any regular polygon, you have 4 of them in front of you, is 1/2 perimeter times the apotheme. Okay, cool. Because our problem already tells me, that the perimeter is 15, so I already have half the problem done in here. A is equal to the perimeter is 15. I just need to find A and I'm done. Now comes the hard part. You ready? All right, here's how it's done. How many degrees in a circle? Okay, it turns out that this is a regular polygon. I'm going to draw another line here, make it also dotted. There's one triangle right there. How many triangles like that are in this pentagon? 5 of them. Can you see them? Right, I'm just not going to draw them. There's 5 of that big triangle right there inside this. So step number 1 is, once you find your perimeter, right, you break it up into triangles.
Wait a second, how is there 5? Because there's 2 lines that are longer.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But those 2 lines are longer.
There's 5 triangles.
There's 5 triangles. You said triangles just like that one.
There are.
So the one that A is bordering is.
Because remember, this is the dead center of the polygon.
Yes.
So there's 5 congruent triangles inside that one. It's only because it's a regular. I mean, if I draw my pentagon squish, like this, or longer like that, well, then that's not true any longer. But if it's regular, it is true. All right, so you get 5 of those things. Let me draw this apotheme back in here. A goes for this part right here. Okay, so you don't need to draw those triangles. This is just a explanation of it. So I'm going to erase it. All you need is one of these triangles. Okay, all right, I got perimeter. I got to find what A is. Here's how it's done: 360 degrees in a circle. So if I go all the way around, that would be 360 divided by how many triangles? 5, which is, you have calculators in front of your face. 72 degrees. That means from here to here is 72 degrees. Everybody with me? Except that we just cut it in half. Therefore, one of those triangles is how big? Right here. It's 36 degrees. Who's lost and know how I got 36? There's 5 triangles, 5 sides, 360 in a full circle, 120, 72, and then 72, because we need just this piece right here, 36. All 4 of these are done exactly like that. Okay? I gotta find what A is. I do have this thing, it says perimeter is 15. It's regular. Regular means all the sides are the same. So if the perimeter is 15, how long is one of these sides? 3, right? Right? See where I'm getting the 3 from? From here to here, it's got to be 3. Why? Perimeter is 15. It's regular. All the sides are the same. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. I'm doing a lot of racing here. Well, if that's 3, then how much is this part right here of the triangle? Which is? What?
Wait,
1.5, right?
no.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have everything we need in order to find the A. You're like, what do you mean, everything? Well, I can't use Pythagorean theorem because I only have one side, but I can use some trig. These are all trig problems or special right triangle problems. All right, so let's see how that works. Remember trig, Sohcahtoa? Sohcahtoa. I got this angle, 36 degrees. I got this side. This side is what? The adjacent, opposite, or hypotenuse to that angle. And we've got to find A. A is the adjacent. Which one has opposite and adjacent in it? It's 10. So tan 36 is equal to the opposite, which was 1.5, over the adjacent, which in this case was A. Do you remember the shortcut for solving that from a couple chapters ago? If you don't remember it, then you got to use some algebra. I got to solve for A. When A is on the bottom, no, that's when A is on the top. So how about we just solve it algebraically? Multiply both sides by A. What happens to the A's over here? Then divide both sides by 10. That's the shortcut. So when the A is on the bottom, it's always the number divided by the tan, or sine or cosine, whatever it is, 36. All right, grab your calculators. You haven't used them in a while. Who knows who's been messing with your calculator? So whenever you do trig, step number 1 should always be make sure you're in degrees, not radians. Literally, I did this problem because I knew I was going to have to do this. So I was like, well, I got to practice it once. And my calculator was in radians. I don't know why. Either somebody was messing with my calculator or I was messing with it. I don't remember which. So 1.5 divided by tan 36 is, it's going to be a weird decimal number.
2.06.
To what?
2.06.
Do you agree? Is it 2.06? Okay.
Yeah.
So we just found the apothem was 2.06, and now we can finish the problem.
That's not what this says, though. It says 15.5.
Well, we're not done with the calculation.
Oh, God.
All that was just to find the A. All right, so 15 times 2.06 divided by 2. What do we get?
15.45.
What's the answer sheet say?
No.
15.5. Okay, we got the right answer. That's a lot of work. So we better do it again. By the way, the process doesn't change for any of these. It's the same. The only way they can get a little bit tricky for you is if they somehow they give you maybe the radius instead. And it's still going to be another trig problem, but maybe you have to find the sides and the apothem. That's the only time they make it really challenging, when they tell you the radius instead of the perimeter. All right. Who thinks they're weakest at this? Pick one. There's 3 left. Pick one.
24.
And I'm just going to say, just because it has more sides doesn't make it harder. It's the same process. Just the numbers change. So we're going to do 24. Everybody tracking with me? All right. We know that for a regular polygon, area is equal to the perimeter times the apothem divided by 2. What's the perimeter here?
18, 16.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, it's 9. Okay.
So it's 18 times A divided by 2. Okay.
I saw 8 sides.
Process is still the same. You don't have to draw the triangles. You got to draw at least one of them. The apothem comes straight down. This is the radius. If this whole thing is 2, then this little piece right here is
1.
Oh, that makes our life a whole lot easier. You understand why I put 1 there instead of 2?
Because you cut it.
Cut in half. It's an isosceles triangle, by the way. Well, the whole thing is isosceles. Okay. We got to figure out the degrees. The degrees is figured out by, well, it's 360 divided by how many sides? How many sides? Well, I don't need a calculator to do that. That's
40.
And then that's the whole thing. And we have half of it, therefore that's if you're going to forget something, it's that piece right there. Is that when you divide it by how many sides, you get that angle. We don't want that angle, we want half of it. I said I wasn't going to erase anymore. I'm still doing it. Okay, so that angle right there is 20 degrees. Where did I get that from? 9 sides. 36 divided by 9 is 40. Half of 40 is 20. Okay, so let's see. We got to figure out A for apothem. This side is the relationship 20. That's the opposite, and it's the same darn problem as the previous one. By the way, if they give you either the perimeter or they give you one of the sides, it will always be tan. The only time it won't be tan is if they give you the radius. Then you're going to be using a sine or cosine. Okay, so let's see. Tan 20 is equal to the opposite. The opposite is 1 over the adjacent, which is A. If you remember the trick, then you just know how to write this. When A is on the top, then Matt, it's you're going to have a variable and you're going to have a number.
Yeah. So
When the variable is on the top, then it's you take the number times that. When the variable is on the bottom, it's the number divided by the tan. Okay.
Oh yeah.
If you forget this, which clearly you have, then just do the algebra. Just get it A by itself. Multiply both sides by A. Those cancel. So we get, I'm going to do all the work here. A tan 20 is equal to 1. Then we got to divide both sides by tan 20. So it's 1 divided by tan 20. So A is equal to approximately 2.7. Okay. I'll set into here. Nobody's complaining. What's the book say? All right. We did it. Now you're like, well, what? Yeah, but this has a nice friendly numbers that go into 3/6. Well, okay, you could get weird decimals. If this has 21 sides, 21 doesn't go into 360. Okay, you just wind up with uglier numbers. But the process doesn't change. By the way, they're not going to give you this problem ever without a calculator. You're going to have a calculator with you to do these type of problems right here. Is that it? All right. That was the whole review. We did everything that we've done so far in this chapter. I know that we spent, 3 weeks away from each other. Some of you did very well during the quarantine because you sent me chats like, how do I do this? Help me on this. And others of you I heard nothing from. Right? So we got to get back on the horse and quickly. No, you sent me something.
I cannot figure out how to get
You go
Isn't it me supposed to be asking you how to do this?
No, but I went into chat and your chat wasn't there.
Now you have to make
You
it.
make a new one. Oh my gosh.
If you've never had a chat conversation with that person.
Yeah, you won't have one there unless I bet.
It's like making a new message.
Brother.
Let's see if I can embarrass Matt. Oh. So, Matt,
I play video games. I don't play with.
you click this button right here, Matt, right here, and then you type the person's name in there.
Why does yours look so different from mine? Because he has a lot of.
Because I have 4,000 students. Matt, we have not chatted. You are correct. We have never chatted. Start a new conversation. Do your homework.
New. Say new.
Wait, what are all those exclamation points?
Yes.
Well, you get out of calm. You shouldn't be in rain. Why is you here?
Hey, we still got 7 minutes.
Backpack on.
All right, e-learners, any questions? You shall end it there.